Imagine stepping into a world where the hum of fluorescent lights and the scent of lemon polish hide secrets that could change lives forever. What the person you pass in the hallway every day, the one with the quiet smile and unassuming demeanor, held the keys to an empire. This is the story of Elena, a woman whose routine of rags and dustpans led her straight into the heart of destiny. Buckle up, because what starts as a simple job turns into a whirlwind of revelations, romance, and redemption. Elena Vargas had always been the invisible force in the towering glass skyscraper of Apex Innovations. Every evening, as the sun dipped below the city skyline, she slipped into the building like a shadow, her cart of cleaning supplies rattling softly behind her. At 32, with calloused hands from years of scrubbing away the remnants of other people's successes, Elena had learned to find solace in the quiet hours after the executives had gone home. She didn't mind the solitude. It gave her time to dream about a life beyond the minimum wage and the cramped apartment she shared with her younger sister, Maria. The office on the 42nd floor was her favorite, or least favorite, depending on the day. It belonged to a man named Alex Thorne, or so the nameplate said. She'd never met him, but his space told stories of its own. The desk was always cluttered with blueprints and prototypes, gadgets that looked like they belonged in a sci-fi movie. Elena would carefully dust around them, marveling at the ingenuity. "Whoever you are, Mr. Thorne," she'd whisper to herself, "you must be changing the world." Little did she know he was watching her not from afar, but from right under her nose. One rainy Tuesday evening, the storm outside matched the chaos in Elena's mind. Maria had called earlier, frantic about unpaid bills piling up like autumn leaves. Elena pushed her cart into Thorne's office, the lights flickering from the thunder. As she wiped down the massive oak desk, a hidden drawer popped open accidentally, revealing a stack of documents. Her eyes widened at the top sheet, Apex Innovations, confidential merger proposal. But what caught her breath was the signature at the bottom, Alexander Thorne, CEO. CEO? Elena's heart raced. The man whose office she cleaned wasn't just some mid-level manager. He owned the whole damn company? She quickly shut the drawer, her mind spinning. All those times she'd seen a tall, broad-shouldered guy in jeans and a hoodie lingering in the lobby, exchanging polite nods with her. He couldn't be, could he? The next day, Elena arrived early, her curiosity burning like a fuse. She spotted him again in the lobby, this time helping an elderly security guard with his coat. His laugh was warm, genuine, nothing like the cold corporate titans she'd imagined. As she rode the elevator up, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to tilt on its axis. That evening, as she entered his office, the lights were on. There he was, Alex Thorne, sitting at his desk, tinkering with a small drone prototype. He looked up, his blue eyes meeting hers for the first time without the barrier of anonymity. "Evening," he said with a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "You're Elena, right? The one who keeps this place spotless." She froze, mop in hand. "How did you know my name?" "I've seen you around," he replied casually, but there was a depth in his gaze that hinted at more. "Actually, I've been meaning to thank you. You probably don't realize it, but your attention to detail has saved me more than once, like when you organized those scattered notes last month. They were crucial for a pitch." Elena's cheeks flushed. I didn't mean to intrude. I just thought they looked important." "They were," Alex said, standing up and walking over to the window, overlooking the glittering city lights. "This company started in my garage 10 years ago. Now it's a billion-dollar enterprise, but I still come in disguised as a regular employee to stay grounded. No one knows who I really am, except now you do." The revelation hung in the air like electricity. Elena's mind raced with questions. Why the secrecy? What did this mean for her? As thunder rumbled outside again, Alex turned to her, his expression softening. "I have a proposition for you, Elena. Something that could change everything." She leaned against her cart, pulse quickening. What could a CEO possibly want from a cleaner? But as he began to explain, the pieces started falling into place. A hidden talent she didn't know she had, a project that needed her unique perspective, and a connection that sparked from the most unlikely of places. Over the following weeks, their encounters grew from stolen moments in the office to late-night conversations amid the hum of vacuum cleaners. Alex revealed his world, the pressures of running a tech giant, the loneliness at the top, the dreams he chased that mirrored her own unspoken ambitions. Elena, in turn, shared her struggles, the immigrant story of her family, the art she sketched in secret, designs that could revolutionize the very gadgets on his desk. One night, as they sat on the office couch sharing takeout, Alex pulled out a sketch pad from his bag. "I found this in the trash bin last week. Is it yours?" Elena's eyes widened. It was her doodle of an ergonomic cleaning tool, something she'd imagined to make her job easier. "I didn't think anyone would see it." "It's brilliant," he said, his voice earnest. "With some tweaks, this could be a product line for Apex. Eco-friendly, efficient, targeted at the unsung heroes like you." The idea ignited something in her. For the first time, Elena saw herself not as the cleaner, but as a creator. They brainstormed together, her practical insights blending with his technical expertise. But amid the excitement, a tension built, an attraction neither could ignore. His hand brushing hers as they pored over blueprints. The way his laugh made her forget the world outside. Yet shadows loomed. Whispers in the building about a corporate spy. Leaks that threatened Apex's biggest deal. Elena found herself caught in the crossfire when a colleague accused her of snooping. "You're just the janitor," the executive sneered. "What do you know?" Alex defended her fiercely in a board meeting she wasn't supposed to witness, revealing his identity to a select few for the first time. "Elena's more than that," he declared. "She's the future of this company." As the merger deadline approached, Elena uncovered a clue in the office trash, a shredded document pointing to the real culprit, a jealous VP. With Alex's trust, she pieced it together, turning the tables in a dramatic confrontation that saved everything. But just as victory seemed within reach, a personal crisis hit. Maria fell ill, hospital bills mounting like a tidal wave. Elena confided in Alex, expecting sympathy, but he offered more, a scholarship fund he'd secretly set up for employees' families, inspired by her stories. Their bond deepened into something profound, a partnership of equals. One evening, on the rooftop under a starlit sky, Alex took her hand. "Elena, you've cleaned more than my office. You've cleared the fog from my life. Will you join me, not as an employee, but as my partner in all this?" She hesitated, the weight of their worlds colliding. "But I'm just—" "No," he interrupted gently. "You're everything." As they leaned in for that first kiss, the city below pulsed with possibility. But fate had one more twist in store. The next morning, Elena received a mysterious envelope at her door, containing old photographs and a letter that shattered her understanding of her past. It turned out her late father had been a silent investor in Apex's early days, making her connected to the company in ways she never imagined. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, expensive. Elena's name was written on the front in handwriting she hadn't seen in 20 years, her father's. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open right there in the hallway outside her apartment, the rooftop kiss with Alex still warm on her lips. Inside were a dozen faded Polaroids. Her father, young and smiling, standing beside a much younger Alex Thorne in what looked like a cluttered garage workshop. There were schematics pinned to corkboards behind them, early versions of the very drones and smart devices that now lined Apex's product catalog. Tucked between the photos was a single sheet of paper, yellowed with age. "My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, I am gone longer than I hoped. The man in these pictures is Alexander Thorne. I met him when he was 22, broke, and sleeping on a futon in that garage. I believed in him when no one else did. I invested every penny I had saved for your college fund. Money I never told your mother about because I knew she would worry. In return, Alex gave me shares. Not many, but enough. They are in your name now, transferred the day you were born. I wanted you to have choices I never did. Forgive me for keeping it secret. I only wanted to protect you from disappointment if it all failed. All my love, forever. Papa." Elena sank to the floor, back against the door, photographs scattered around her like fallen leaves. She was a shareholder, not a cleaner who had stumbled into the CEO's orbit by accident. She had been part of Apex since the day she came into the world. The realization hit her like a wave. Every time she dusted those prototypes, she had been polishing pieces of her own legacy. She didn't sleep that night. At dawn, she walked the 20 blocks to the Apex building, the envelope clutched in her coat pocket. The security guard waved her through with the familiar nod reserved for the night crew, unaware that everything had changed. She took the elevator to the 42nd floor, keycard still granting her access because no one had thought to revoke the cleaner's privileges. Alex was already there, sleeves rolled up, coffee in hand, staring at lines of code on a holographic display. He turned when he heard her footsteps, surprise softening into that slow, heart-stopping smile. "You're early," he said. "I like early." Elena didn't smile back. She pulled out the envelope and laid the contents on his desk like evidence in a trial. The photographs, the letter, the original share certificate bearing her infant footprint in faded blue ink. Alex's face drained of color as he read, then reread the words her father had written. "Elena," his voice cracked. "I had no idea. Your last name, Vargas, it's common." I never connected. He picked up one of the Polaroids, his younger self grinning beside her father. "Carlos was the only one who believed in me when banks laughed me out of the room. He mortgaged his house for seed money. I tried to buy him out later, make him rich, but he refused. Said the shares belonged to his daughters. I thought he meant metaphorically. He meant me," she whispered. "All this time I thought I was invisible here, and I actually owned a piece of it." Alex set the photo down carefully. 5% of the original shares. Diluted over funding rounds, but still substantial. Millions, Elena. You're not just an employee or even a partner in a new product line. You're a founding investor's heir. The room spun. She gripped the edge of the desk. "Why didn't you ever tell me you knew my father?" "Because I didn't know he had children," Alex said quietly. "He talked about you and Maria constantly, but he never showed pictures, never brought you around. He said it was safer that way. Corporate espionage was already a worry even then. After he passed, I tried to find his family through the shareholder records, but the trust was blind. I gave up." Silence stretched between them, heavy and electric. Elena's mind raced through years of struggle. Her mother working double shifts, Maria's medical bills, her own endless nights scrubbing floors to keep them afloat. All while a fortune sat untouched in a trust she never knew existed. "I need air," she said finally, turning toward the door. "Elena, wait." But she was already gone, riding the elevator down, bursting out onto the street where the city was just waking up. She walked until her legs burned, ending up in the little park where her father used to push her on the swings when she was small. She sat on a bench and let the tears come, hot and angry and relieved all at once. By midday, her phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from Alex. Missed calls. She ignored them until Maria's name flashed on the screen. "Where are you?" "Some lawyer just called the apartment asking for you. Said it's urgent, something about a trust disbursement." Elena closed her eyes. The dam had broken. There was no stuffing the truth back inside. That afternoon, in a sleek law office overlooking the river, Elena signed papers that transferred the matured shares into her name. The lawyer, a kind-eyed woman who had known her father, explained quietly that the dividends alone over the last decade would have covered every bill they'd ever worried about 10 times over. But Carlos Vargas had insisted the principal remain untouched until his eldest daughter turned 35 or claimed it herself, whichever came first. "I'm 32, Elena said numbly. "Then it's been waiting for you 3 years, the lawyer replied. When she stepped out of the building, Alex was there, leaning against a lamppost, hands in his coat pockets. He looked like he hadn't slept either. "I figured you'd come here next," he said. "I've known Ms. Patel since your father did." Elena studied him, the man who had carried her father's dream forward, who had lived with the ghost of that debt for years. "Did you ever feel guilty?" she asked. "Building all this on money my family sacrificed?" "Every single day," he admitted. "That's why I stay disguised. Why I fund scholarships anonymously. Why I noticed you long before you ever noticed me. You have his eyes, Elena, and his stubborn chin. I think I was drawn to you before I even understood why. She exhaled shakily. I don't know who I am anymore. The struggling cleaner or the secret heiress. Both feel like costumes. Then let's find the woman underneath, he said simply. No expectations. No titles. Just you and me figuring it out. Over the weeks that followed, Elena did exactly that. She kept her cleaning shift for a while, partly out of habit, partly to prove to herself she could walk away on her own terms. But she also enrolled in design courses, the ones she'd always window shopped online. Alex gave her an office on the 41st floor, not the executive suite, but a bright corner space with windows and plants and a drafting table. They worked side by side on her ergonomic tool line, now officially a joint venture. Yet the shift in power dynamics rippled outward. Employees whispered. The VP, who had once sneered at her, suddenly couldn't meet her eyes in meetings. Maria moved into a better apartment and started nursing school, without loans hanging over her. Elena bought her mother a house near the ocean, the one she'd always talked about but never believed possible. And through it all, Alex waited. He never pushed, never assumed the money changed what was growing between them. Late nights in the office became late nights in quiet restaurants, then walks through the city where they talked about everything and nothing. He told her about the years of loneliness after Apex took off, the relationships that crumbled under NDAs and board meetings. She told him about the fear that had kept her small, fear of hoping for more only to have it snatched away. One spring evening, as cherry blossoms drifted like snow across the rooftop garden Alex had secretly installed on the building, Elena finally felt the pieces settle. I'm ready, she said, taking his hand. Not because of the shares or the company or any of it. Just because I choose you. The man who stayed in the garage with my father when everyone else walked away. The man who sees me, all of me. Alex pulled her close, forehead resting against hers. And I choose you, Elena Vargas. The woman who turned my sterile office into a place I wanted to be. The woman who sketches revolutions on scraps of paper and fights for the people no one else notices. Their first kiss was slower, deeper, tasting of certainty instead of surprise. Below them, the city sparkled, indifferent and alive. But even as happiness bloomed, new shadows gathered on the horizon. Word of Elena's inheritance had leaked, quietly at first, then in splashy tech blogs framing her as the Cinderella shareholder. Investors circled, some friendly, some predatory. A rival firm launched a hostile bid, whispering that Apex had lost its edge under Alex's sentimental leadership. And late one night, Elena discovered an anonymous email in her new company inbox. Grainy photos of her father's old garage, stamped with a watermark she didn't recognize, and a single line. We know what really happened the night Carlos Vargas died. Meet us, or the world will too. Her blood ran cold. Her father's death had been ruled a heart attack, quiet and sudden. But now doubt crept in like fog. She stared at the screen, heart hammering, wondering if the past she'd just reclaimed was built on secrets darker than she could imagine. Alex was in California for investor meetings. She couldn't reach him. The deadline in the email was 48 hours. Elena closed the laptop, pulled on her coat, the same worn one she'd worn cleaning, and headed into the night. Whatever truth waited, she would face it alone if she had to. The woman who had once been invisible was done hiding. But as she stepped into the elevator, she couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest revelation was still to come, one that might unravel everything she and Alex had built, together and apart. The rain-slicked streets reflected neon as Elena stepped out of the cab at the address in the email, an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the industrial district, the kind of place where secrets went to die. 40 hours had passed since the message arrived, and she had spent every one of them digging. She'd pored over old news clippings, hospital records, even police reports her mother had hidden away. Nothing contradicted the official story. Carlos Vargas, 48 years old, found in his car outside a late-night diner, heart attack, no foul play. Yet the photos in the email showed scorch marks on the garage floor from a small electrical fire the very same week her father died. a fire that had destroyed early Apex prototypes, and, according to one buried insurance claim, nearly taken a life. She wasn't alone long. Headlights cut through the darkness, and a black sedan pulled up. A man emerged mid-50s, expensive coat, face she vaguely recognized from old shareholder meetings. Victor Lang, once Alex's college roommate and co-founder, ousted years ago for creative differences. The press had called it a mutual parting. Victor's version had always been darker. "You came alone," he said, voice smooth as oil. Smart. Or foolish. Elena stood beneath the flickering sodium light, chin high. "You said, you know what happened to my father. Talk." Victor smiled thinly. Carlos didn't die of a heart attack. He was exhausted, working nights in that garage after his day job, pushing Alex's prototypes past safety limits because your friend refused to wait for proper funding. A battery short-circuited. Fire started. Carlos dragged Alex out, inhaled smoke, damaged his heart. Alex begged him to go public, sue for damages, anything. Carlos refused. Said the dream was bigger than one man's health. He made Alex promise to keep quiet, protect the company, protect you and Maria from scandal. So Alex paid the medical bills anonymously, buried the truth, and built his empire on guilt. The words landed like blows. Elena felt the ground tilt. "You're saying Alex let my father die to save face?" "No," Victor replied. "I'm saying Alex let your father choose his own ending. And Carlos chose the company. Chose Alex. But the world doesn't have to see it that way. One leak, those photos, the fire report, a grieving daughter's testimony, and Apex crumbles. Hostile takeover becomes inevitable. Unless I sell you my shares," Elena finished, quietly, "and disappear." Victor inclined his head. "Exactly. You walk away rich. Alex keeps his legacy. Everyone wins." She stared at him, rain beginning to fall in earnest, soaking her coat. All the pieces fit. The scholarships, the anonymous help, Alex's refusal to take credit for early designs that bore her father's handwriting. Guilt had shaped him as much as ambition. "I need to hear it from him," she said. Victor laughed softly. "He's on his way. Couldn't stay away once I told him you'd come." Minutes later, another car screeched to a halt. Alex leaped out, hair plastered to his forehead, eyes wild. "Elena, get away from him." Victor raised a hand. "Easy, old friend. She deserves the truth you've carried alone for 15 years. Alex's gaze locked on Elena, raw and pleading. "Everything he said about the fire, it's true. I was unconscious. Your father saved my life. When he collapsed months later, I blamed myself every day. I honored his wish, no scandal, no pity. I built Apex into something that could help thousands, the way he believed it would. But I never forgave myself for letting him sacrifice so much." Elena stepped toward him, rain streaming down her face. "Why didn't you tell me when you found out who I was?" "Because I was terrified," Alex admitted, voice breaking. "Terrified you'd hate me. Terrified you'd think I only noticed you because of guilt. But Elena, from the first night I watched you carefully rearrange my chaotic desk, I saw you. Not Carlos's daughter. You. Brave, brilliant kind. The woman who made me want to be better than the man who'd let his mentor die." Victor watched them, calculating, touching. "But time's running out. The board meets in 72 hours. Sell to me, Elena, or I release everything." She turned to him, calm now, the storm inside quieting into resolve. "No." Victor's smile faltered. "You'll destroy him." "I'll save him," she corrected. "The right way." She pulled out her phone, live recording already running, streamed privately to a secure server and to Ms. Patel, the lawyer who had known her father. Every word Victor had spoken tonight was captured. But more than that, Elena had spent the last 2 days preparing something bigger. "Tomorrow morning," she said, "I'm calling an emergency shareholder meeting. I'll tell the full story myself, every detail. The fire, my father's choice, the promise Alex kept. Not to bury him, but to free him. Apex wasn't built on a lie. It was built on love. A man who believed in a young dreamer so much he gave everything. And that dreamer spent 15 years trying to be worthy of it. Alex stared at her, stunned. Elena continued, voice steady and clear over the rain. The world will hear how Carlos Vargas didn't die for nothing. He died believing tomorrow could be better. And it is because of what he and Alex created together. Investors won't run. They'll see integrity, strength, humanity. And Victor? Your attempt at blackmail will be the final proof that Apex is worth protecting. Victor's face twisted. He lunged for a phone, but Alex moved faster, intercepting him, pinning him until sirens, summoned quietly by Elena's prearranged alert, filled the night. As police took Victor away, Alex and Elena stood in the downpour, soaked to the bone, the city washing clean around them. I was so afraid of losing you, he whispered. You never had to be, she answered. My father chose you once. I choose you now, freely, fully, forever. 3 months later, the shareholder meeting became legend in tech circles. Elena stood at the podium, photographs of her father and young Alex projected behind her, telling the story with grace and fire. Shares didn't plummet, they soared. Apex emerged stronger, transparent, human. Victor faced charges. The hostile bid collapsed. And on a perfect autumn evening, atop the rooftop garden, now named the Carlos Vargas Vista, Alex knelt before Elena amid a carpet of fallen leaves, a simple ring in his hand. No diamonds the size of headlights, just a band engraved with coordinates, the exact spot of the old garage where it all began. Elena Vargas, he said, voice thick with emotion. You turned my guilt into grace, my secrets into strength. You are my partner, my inspiration, my home. Marry me. Let's build the rest of this life the way your father taught us, together, bravely, for everyone who dares to dream. Tears shining, she pulled him to his feet, kissing him as the sun set gold and rose over the skyline. Yes, she laughed through happy sobs. 8,000 times yes. Years later, when people asked how a cleaner became co-CEO of a trillion-dollar empire, Elena would smile and say it started with a dusty office and a hidden drawer. But the truth was far more magnificent. It started with a father's boundless belief, a young man's promise kept through storms, and a woman who refused to let love be buried in silence.